This is the Marketing for Learning podcast, the only podcast in the world that's guaranteed to help learning and development professionals enhance their skills, capabilities, and knowledge when it comes to marketing for learning. I think we can safely say that marketing for learning is a thing. In May of this year, the Chief Customer Officer of Canva did something most executives would never do out loud. He confessed. Canva gave every single one of its 5,000 employees a full week off. Not a workshop, not a lunch and learn, a whole week's calendars cleared, no meetings, to do one thing: learn AI. The best tools money can buy. Guided sessions, workshops built for every role, a hackathon to finish. 26,000 hours of people actually rolling their sleeves up and having a proper go at this AI thing. And at the end of it, Rob Giglio wrote 7 words in Fortune that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since. The bottleneck wasn't the technology. It was us. Hey guys, welcome to the Marketing for Learning podcast. As you hopefully know by now, I'm Ashley Hinchcliffe, and as always, I apologize for the extensive delay in between this and our previous podcast episode, which I think was in May. So sorry about that. Just still busy with clients, finding my feet as a solopreneur, and really just trying to understand this world now that AI is everywhere we look and everywhere we turn. So I just want to remind you what the purpose of this Marketing for Learning podcast is. It's really about getting people to engage with the things that you build, whether that's a new learning program, a new platform, or obviously today, getting people to actually use and then embed AI to actually increase adoption and fluency and change behavior. But the reason I started with that Canva piece was because that article absolutely captivated me. Because if they're able to give their entire workforce an entire week to learn AI and still didn't have the success that they wanted, then I have no doubt that this is happening in your organization too. Because let's be honest, your budget was probably tighter, your tools were most likely blunter, and no one got a full week off anybody's calendar, right? So I wanted to share this case study. I will put the link to the actual article that Rob wrote in the Fortune, in the show notes, in the show notes. It's well worth a read. But today we're going to dissect what Canva did, the assumptions that they made, and why this led to no real transformation. So we're going to explore what went wrong, and then we're actually going to explore the discipline that fixes it. A confession from someone senior. Sit with that for a second because it is remarkable. This is a design software company. It's AI native, it's generously resourced, and it's full of motivated people who genuinely wanted the tools. You'd think if anybody was going to nail AI adoption overnight, it was going to be Canva. And yet still they found that the hard part wasn't the deployment of the AI. It wasn't getting the technology in place. It was getting humans to change how they work. New habits, new workflows, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, new ways of delegation. That messy, woolly human bit in the middle that no software update is ever going to fix. Giglio said something else that I want you to write down if you're not listening to this at the gym or in the car. He said deploying is not the same as enabling, and my God, I could not agree more. You can deploy a tool to 5,000 people in an afternoon. Enabling them to actually use it and then embedding it so that it sticks after the novelty wears off, that is a completely different discipline. His verdict was frankly quite blunt, and I respected the honesty, if I'm honest. Most organizations don't have a technology gap anymore. They have a behavior gap. And I gotta say, I think he's dead right. So let's have a look at what is going on in this world of AI. Let me show you the scale of this because the numbers are astonishing, quite frankly. Enterprise spending on generative AI hit roughly $37 billion last year. That is more than triple the year before. So in 2024, it tripled to 2025. And nearly 9 in 10 organizations now use AI in at least one part of their business. Again, I will link to all of the statistics that I've referenced here within the show notes. I am not just making these figures up, I promise. So if we look at that, we're buying it. Organizations are bringing it in, it's rolling out, and we know that the tools work. And yet, MIT studied 300 public AI deployments, and they found that 95% of them delivered no measurable impact on the bottom line. Not a single % of measurable impact. And in a single year, the number of companies quietly abandoning most of their AI project jumped from 17% to 42%. This is record investment in technology, near universal access, and almost no return. So you've got to sit and think, if this was a technology problem, a newer, shinier model would have solved it by now. Much like you still have an engagement problem with your LXP, your new shiny one, that replaced your old LMS, because it's not actually a technology problem. And I rant about that in many other episodes, right? The tech is not the problem. Newer tech hasn't resolved the issue, which to me tells us that the failure is not the tool. It is in the gap between buying the tool and getting a human being to genuinely use it. And you cannot, and I mean this, you cannot close that gap between I have access and I am using this every day with more licenses and more training. For me, part of the problem with all of this AI stuff is that we use one word, adoption, I'm doing air quotes, for 3 completely different things, and then we congratulate ourselves for the wrong one. So let's break it down. Access is giving people the tool. You could also call it deployment. This is the licenses, the logins, the policy documents, the usage parameters, so on and so forth. And guess what? We're really, really good at that. Most organizations are pretty brilliant at this by this stage because they've implemented so much tech. And sadly, it's often mistaken as the finish line because of that. But that is access. Adoption is when people are actually using the tool of their own volition, using their own choice in their real work. So this is when it's actually present in workflows. And this is where, if I'm honest, the majority of the programs that I'm seeing are stalling. So Canva could deploy to 5,000 people in an afternoon, enabling them and embedding it. That's the 90% of the work that everyone is skipping. The rollout, the deployment, that's the easy part. So what's the hard part? Well, look, here is a shift in mindset that may just change the way you think about this a little bit. I mean, that Rob guy at Canva said it himself, right? They did not have an adoption problem. They had a behavior change problem. And behavior change is a marketing job through and through, whether we're incorporating behavioral science into that, any change management into that, that is marketing's job. Think about when a company launches a new product to its customers. It doesn't just send off one email. It doesn't just say, hey, this thing exists. Off you pop. It actually takes the time to understand the audience, What do they care about? What pain points are they wrangling with? Is this a real need? Is this something that we are actually going to get people to buy? What would actually make them want to change? The sort of marketing that's done with new products, they build anticipation. They make the case for why should I do something that you want me to do over and over again. Those product launches handle objections. They answer the what's in it for me. They answer the why. And they prove value until that message finally lands after many, 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 many messages. And then the irony is that exact same company launches, air quotes, a tool to its own employees by a minimal amount of comms, some training and access. And that is not a launch, and that is not adoption. That's an announcement. And announcements get archived. Announcements get ignored in the time that it takes someone to think, there's nothing in this for me. This isn't relevant. So if you think that this is internal resistance, people are anti-AI, I don't think that that's the case. So if you guys have ever heard of something called shadow AI, as you can see, I have gone down an absolute wormhole with this, by the way. Over 80% of workers are already using AI at work. That means nearly 80% of people are bringing their own tools into their workflows, unapproved, on their own time. We call it shadow AI and treat it as a security problem. Like, oh my God, we've got so much data going in here. Then what about our company's IP? What about GDPR? But don't get me wrong, it is a security problem. But when you look at it again, it's also kind of a review of your approach to get people to use AI, because they'll happily use AI when they want, if it's the tool they want. They just won't adopt the one that you've chosen because nobody has sold it to them the way that ChatGPT or Anthropic have. So let's look at what is really stopping adoption. If we strip back any stalled AI program, I guarantee you're going to find about 5 of the same failures that sit underneath that. Not every single one of them is technical, and everyone is a marketer would never dream of skipping. So let's look at them. 1. Motivation. Employees lack motivation to change behavior. Nobody sold them the why. People use what they want when they want, not what they're told to want. So if you've never answered the only question they're really asking, which is, what's in it for me, in my job, why should I do this, change is hard, I can't be bothered, they've answered it themselves. They've guessed, more work. And they don't do it.
How about no?
2. Messaging. A small amount of scattergun communications blasted to everybody in the organization lands with almost exactly nobody. Finance, sales, HR, and operations, marketing teams, sales teams, they're all going to use AI differently, and therefore they're going to care about different things. Communications and messaging that change behavior are segmented, targeted, repeated, and relevant to the person reading them. Whereas what I see is most AI comms being, again, that single broadcast, the things that we've done over and over and over again, which is why this is sinking without a trace. We're doing the same things, and that didn't work even with normal technology, never mind AI. That is so significantly different in the way people need to think and work.
Let that sink in.
Number 3, trust. And this one, honestly, is the biggest thing. Like, we saw this a lot when it came to the Capgemini case study we did a couple of years ago. AI was something that people were quite wary of. They didn't trust it. They didn't know why the business was bringing it in. And trust, when combined with fear, is not a very good marriage, and often leads to inactivity and potentially even apathy as well. Because if people suspect that AI is here to replace them, they're just not going to lean in, right? If they think, oh, well, am I training the technology that's going to replace me? Hell no, I ain't doing that. they're going to keep their heads down and they're going to wait it out. It'll probably go the same way that the last change transformation piece did. It died. And then on top of that, there's fatigue. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick of reading about AI, hearing about AI. AI. Like, I'm bored of going on LinkedIn because everything is just slop AI, comments, AI, things written by AI everywhere. I won't say AI anymore, I promise. People are tired. So, again, what comes up in our discovery sessions all the time is change fatigue. Employees are exhausted with the amount of organizational change. And this is really before the rapid deployment of AI into the workflows. So, check out this for a stat. Gartner found that employees' willingness to support change collapsed from 74% in 2016 to just 38% by 2022. While the number of big changes they faced went from 2 a year to 10. People aren't necessarily resistant to AI, they are just exhausted and worn out with the constant change and firefighting. What is BAU and what does it look like?
We're sorry. The person you are trying to reach is too tired to deal with your bullshit. Please try again later. Service error FU.
Number 4, proof. We adopt what our peers are adopting, right? What we see other people doing. This is so commonplace in this podcast by now. I've done episodes on user-generated content. I've done episodes on social proof because visible champions, visible colleagues, real people, not the IT team, not the L&D team, not the employee engagement team, not the change management team, real people talking about local wins, how they're doing their job better. There's really nothing to, I suppose, contextualize it for your people. It doesn't really show them why any of it is worth the effort. So if we're saying things like, whoa, you're going to get better productivity, well, what does that mean? As I said before, the way finance will use it is going to be quite different to marketing. So the idea of productivity is quite different for each of those audiences. Abstract promises of productivity kind of move nobody. And interestingly, Canva's actual breakthrough came from a hackathon and a community of internal AI champions. Not a memo from on high, not a CEO email, from people within the business advocating for it.
Wow.
And the 5th reason that most AI rollouts fail is measurement. We're looking at the wrong things, right? We're tracking logins, we're tracking access again, not behavior change. So we're looking at things like utilization dashboards. Woohoo, yeah, people are using the tool, they're opening the tool, great. But it doesn't really tell you if people are changing the way they work. Did they just log in and close it again? And that's really the only thing that matters, right? Because if we want to move from deployment to adoption to embedding and fluency, then we need to focus on continuous usage, behavior change, change in habits, change in process, change in workflows, change in ways of thinking. At the moment, the reality is 9 in 10 organizations have adopted AI now. That has been that quick. But only a quarter of those organizations can measure the return. So if we're measuring the wrong thing and we celebrate the wrong win, we're going to get it wrong and it's going to get very expensive very quickly. Now, this should all feel rather familiar to you because we've watched this movie before, right? It's a rerun.
That is brand new information!
CRMs nobody updated, HRISs nobody read, learning platforms nobody logged into. Digital transformation has worn a lot of costumes over the last 20 years, but the plot never seems to change. Buy the technology, skip the human change, blame the tool. What's different this time with AI is twofold for me. So one is that the technology genuinely works. It's legitimately good. And secondly, this isn't tech that we're just going to roll out that everyone in the organization kind of eventually just has to suck up. Like a new HRIS, that's annoying, I have to go here, I don't know how the UI works. Boom. Well, it's your only choice, so that's what you've got to do. Whereas AI is a significant change in not just how people work, but how they think and how they delegate. And it's exhausting. I've been, learning it for the last probably 6 months. I'm certainly no pro, but I have noticed a really significant drain on my mental faculties whilst learning it, because it's a massive change in how I work. So if the technology works, that's kind of the last excuse removed, isn't it? It's our default. Let's blame the tech. Let's blame the software. We could blame it on that, right? If we had a really crappy LMS, it's the LMS's fault. But we can't blame Claude. We can't blame ChatGPT. So the only variable left is whether you actually marketed the change to the people who had to live it, whether you actually sold the benefits to them, whether you actually taught them what it meant to bring AI into their workflow. So I'm going to summarize this for you in a simple sentence. None of those 5 barriers is removed by better software. Truthfully, it never was remedied. Every single barrier at the nub of it is a communication, motivation, trust, or proof problem, which is to say, a marketing problem. Treat your people like an audience that you have to win over. Still applies. This is not news, guys. They're not users we can instruct. They're not robots. And the numbers actually will move if we talk to them like human beings. And I'm not guessing that. I mentioned about the Capgemini case study. They basically brought in a digital AI campus, a Gen AI campus it was called, and they approached mass. And we treated this training program like a proper internal launch. Over 30 hours of research, segmented messaging and personas, a real value proposition, a variety of different tactics, including videos and influencers, i.e. peer user-generated content, and sustained communication across a whole 6-month phase rather than just single instances of comms. That drove 82% engagement across a workforce of more than 340,000 people. Over 130,000 of that organization actually completed the training in full. Another client of ours went from 5% platform adoption to 23% in just 30 days because of the way that we marketed it. Nothing changed. And guess what? That was only through email as well. These are significant shifts in a really short period of time. So let's go back to Canva. They really did get most of the way there. They diagnosed the behavior gap, they cleared the calendars, and, credit to them, that it was well-intentioned, right? That's further than a lot of people get. But give everyone a week off doesn't scale to an enterprise that can't press pause and isn't a repeatable system. The discipline that closes a behavior gap reliably at scale again and again is the one Giglio, Rob, the man, walked right up to and he didn't name, and it's marketing. Marketing is simply the craft of moving us. So if your AI adoption is flatlining, it's not where you want it to be, it's dead on arrival even, and someone started asking you why, I've put everything into a guide. It's called the AI Adoption Playbook. It's the same methodology behind the Capgemini work. It's free and the link's in the show notes. So go and check it out if you really want to start thinking about AI adoption beyond a technology issue. As I said, this article captivated me. So I want to leave you with Giglio's one final line, because when someone says it better than you, you just repeat it verbatim. The AI was never the hard part. We are. The tools are ready. The question is whether you're going to market the change or send one more email and hope. Thanks so much for your time, guys. This is Ashley on the Marketing for Learning podcast. I hope to see you soon, not 2 months from now. Hopefully we'll get back to releasing these weekly or bi-weekly. I hope you found this interesting. Obviously, you know where I am on LinkedIn or otherwise if you ever want to have a chat. And go on, go forth, be brilliant. Marketing for learning. It's now absolutely 100% absolutely a thing.